Thank you very much, Michael. Good morning, everyone. At least it is morning where I'm at. I hope it is a good day, whatever time it is, wherever you are. Today we're going to be discussing application knowledge capture. First thing is, why should you care? And let's put this in context. When we talk about application knowledge capture, we're primarily looking at a focus around the application support or services associated with the application that IT supplies to the business user. Why is it important? Well, let's think about it. If we have environmental issues that can keep our business users from doing their jobs, like aging, complex, error-prone, then what happens is critical business applications may not be available, and we can have business outages. This can be exacerbated or just increased by the criticality of the application. If it's, let's say, an order processing application, well, we can certainly see that no revenue is coming into the company. So something as simple as not knowing the right thing at the right time, if something bad occurs to the application, can cause a serious cascade in business operations. And certainly in the support area, particularly dealing with applications, we look at, there are very little processes that we have that are consistent. Documentation or knowledge is either word of mouth on someone else's PC, or you've got one person who knows all about this that really may not be available, and that becomes the logjam for solving problems if the expert, the Mary or Charlie go-to person who has been working with the application for many years is not available. And certainly we have the human factor, that whenever we're supporting applications, we have the same issues in the application support space that we have in any other area of the business. We have retirements, resignations, transfers. And what happens is because we do not have up-to-date and institutionalized knowledge about our business applications, that knowledge can walk out the door or move away from where it is needed very quickly and easily. And again, what this means to us as IT practitioners is that it takes us longer to solve the problems, and it may impact the business to a greater extent. We see that we have from the continuity management, which is part of the service management methodologies, that we have that the loss of knowledge is a very costly business issue. Not only can it be costly from the point of just wasted time, but it can actually mean loss of business. So the bottom line and the illusion is if all these people begin to turn over or retire, how are we going to keep the lights on? And of course, most of the executives, or many executives that I have come in contact with, is that, oh, my applications are documented. Why should I do anything else? And the word documented is somewhat misleading, because when particularly executives, and I'm not talking about the practitioner, the analyst, the programmer sitting on the floor, but the executive in the office who's somewhat removed from the day-to-day issues. They think that documentation resides in some of the initial specifications or the technical drawings, that a database design, or certain pieces of technical literature that have come if it's a purchased application, or things that were created when an application was originally designed but are incredibly out of date. That represents, yes, documentation. Real application knowledge resides in the heads of people. That when, over the period of time, we learn the peculiarities of the application, the pressure points, the things that are quick to get it up in a certain area if we have a problem. This is what we call real knowledge. And it's the knowledge expert, the subject matter expert, who knows that we are that we need to capture that knowledge that's in their heads and acquired over many years and institutionalize it so that we don't lose it if that expert moves on, goes away for whatever reason. And in this context, application knowledge should be viewed as a business asset. Okay? An asset means that this has value to the company. And the true test is, if you want to think of whether or not it is a real asset, is what happens if your order processing application goes down? What happens if your inventory control application goes down and you don't ship product, or your warehouse people cannot ship product and are standing around, or your order entry people cannot take orders and bring revenue into the company? That is why we call knowledge an asset, if those applications are down because critical knowledge is not available when problems happen, and as we all know, they do. Now, what discipline should we consider, if we're treating application knowledge as a business asset? Well, certainly, as we analyze any problem as IT practitioners, we want to determine the scope and the objectives of any capture initiative, and what criteria are we going to use for selecting which applications that we are going to invest this time and money in capturing critical knowledge. Certainly, an application is used once per year, or an application that has never had any failures in the last 5 years, that might cause us to give a low priority. But if we have a revenue-generating application and one that is somewhat prone to disruption from one form or another and requires a lot of maintenance or babysitting, then those are the things that we use to help prioritize why we might want to consider these applications to capture the knowledge. Certainly, we want to have a methodology of identifying what is critical information, what kind of format should that information be in, such that it is most useful to the practitioner in the support group. Again, we are focusing on the support group and the user community, because there's where the greatest amount of interaction resides in terms of knowledge and impact. And certainly we want to have a methodology so we know how to harvest that knowledge. Once we determine what and what format, how do we get to it consistently? If I do it for 5 applications, I want to do it 5 times pretty much the same way and not reinvent the wheel every time I do this. And certainly there are some training activities that are involved so that everybody plays off the same sheet of music and not having to try and make up their own as they go along. So what is in essence, application knowledge capture? As we see here on the screen, it's a structured approach for gathering, formatting, storing, and distributing critical application knowledge that is useful to either A, the application support professional, or even B, the application user. Because there are certain aspects of application knowledge that can be just as useful to the user as they are to the support professional. For example, the number of reports and what does a report look like and when are they produced out of the system, the critical 80-20 rule. Of course, that's going to be very useful to the end user as well as the support professional. And it keeps calls from coming in to the support department if a lot of this knowledge that is relevant to the end user is made available to them. Certainly, it's the creation of a business asset that significantly reduces risk associated with the loss of knowledge. And the loss of knowledge is important because it can cause outages to the business application and also collaterally, potentially, to the business itself.